Hi, my name is Debbie, also known as Vale. Welcome to my YouTube channel where I talk about my cross stitch progress. You can find me on Instagram as Vale the Stitcher, and you can also find me on Etsy at veilstitchery.etsy.com, where I sell cross stitch designs that focus on fantasy and Halloween. And it is Monday, April 13th. It's just after 5 p.m. And I am back 1 week later. Yay. It actually feels really good. I don't know if it's because I'm working from home or what, but I feel like I can get more organized after work in order to do a video like this. So we have 5 new starts to talk about. No whips, all starts. If you follow me on Instagram at Vale the Stitcher, you'll have seen a lot of those. I have some haul to talk about and some plans and then a little chit chat. So, yeah, so it's Monday evening. Things have been going pretty good. It's still kind of hard to get used to changing up my whole routine, even though I'm like 5 weeks into it. It still feels weird, but doing good, doing a crap ton of stitching. I mentioned last week that I've been doing just all the starts, which is not like me at all. I like to be very like methodical about what I'm working on, and it's usually very goal oriented. I've reasons why I'm working on everything that I'm working on, and I've just kind of thrown all of that obligation out of the window, and I'm just doing whatever I want to do. So hence, we have 5 starts in 1 week, which is like unheard of. But that's cool. I'm excited. Um, I also mentioned last week that I had placed 2 cross-stitch orders, one of which had come in and you guys saw the haul, and then another one that was on order. So that order came in over the weekend, which I will show you in the haul section. But then I placed which should be the last one for a while. And I held off, and the reason I ended up making the order was because I went through my stash and kitted up everything that I could kit up, and I was actually able to pull a lot of DMC. But then I was making a list of the projects I wanted to start and then what floss I was missing. So I started an order with just floss, and then somehow 4 new charts made their way onto that shopping cart, along with another piece of fabric. So that's coming this weekend. I'll show that next time, and then hopefully that will be it. That will be it. I am starting to get over my new starts craziness. I'm starting to really itch to work on some of the whips that have come through the cycle. So I'm thinking probably by next week I will start really analyzing like what are things that I want to work on and focus on and start making more of a plan. So looks like we're already starting to get out of the, crazy new start train. So that's good. Okay, so let's talk about some whips. So this was in my haul last week. Let's go over here. This is by Little Dove Designs, Adjust Your Sails. And this is just a really summery nautical piece, and I was drawn to it because it reminds me of summer. Also, I love how it's kind of split up, kind of band style, so you can really focus on one section as you're going along. So I started in the upper left corner because I typically do that. And I'm stitching this on some stash fabric, actually. I bought fabric that I thought was going to be for this project in my haul last week, and then it ended up not going for that project. So this is 28 count, just a 28 count even weave that was in my stash, and I hand dyed it with some Rit dye myself sometime last year, and it's just kind of been in my stash waiting for the right time to be used. And I thought that you can't really quite see the modeling as nice in the video, but I thought that like it really felt kind of like summery sky clouds and stuff like that. So this is a lot of fun to do because you just kind of focus in on a certain motif. Like I started in the corner and I've been working kind of on the borders here and there, but I started with the houses and then went up to the clouds and kind of worked my way around. So that one is a lot of fun and will probably come out again soon. But I worked on it for about 2 days and then went on to the next start, which is, sorry, let me open this. This is called Sunflowers Farm by Cuore e Batticuore. Don't know what that means. But this is, I mean, if you want to talk about summer, this also made me feel like summer, which is such a cheerful thought. And I love sunflowers. What's funny is when I picked this out, I didn't really think about the size of it. And it's definitely larger than I thought it was going to be. It's, I'm not going to say on the back. It is, the stitch count is 250 by 160. So it's definitely a little bit bigger than I would have thought, which when I show you my progress, that's actually almost 2 days of progress, and I didn't really get that far. I will say though that I'm stitching this on 40 count, and when I stitch on 40 count with one strand, it's just, it feels a little more delicate, which means that like I feel like I stitch a little slower. So here's my progress on this. I'm stitching this on a 40 count Newcastle linen in the colorway Nocturne by Picture This Plus. Way back here, you can hardly see anything. You can see a little sunflower. And then you get up close and you can see all I did was I started in the top left corner and started some of the border. And that is it. And I stitched most of I've stitched most of this while watching Hook on Netflix. So I'm looking at this and all I can think of is Hook, which was like a childhood favorite movie of mine. This definitely needs to come out again soon. It is so fun, and I want to get to the girl and her table. It's a table, it looks like a table of honey. And I want to get to her and her table of honey and those little bees. That looks like that would be fun to stitch. So I at least want to get to that little section of the motifs. As we'll discuss in plans, probably not going to come out again this week, but I would at least like to get through that section soon. So that's a lot of fun. Okay, the next one. This was a surprise, actually. This was not planned at all. I didn't have this in stash. I did not have this on order. I was browsing Etsy late at night, as you do sometimes, and I went to Country Magic Stitch to see what new like travel signs they had. They're famous for like their Lord of the Rings and the Hobbits, and Star Wars, all of their like location posters. And I had heard that they had put up some new ones since I had last checked. So I saw this one, Welcome to New York City, and I had to get it. This is going to be a total spoiler alert if my sister ever watches this, but I really can't see her watching this. She lives in New York City, and with the news right now, like New York City has been one of the hardest or the hardest hit place in the US right now with the coronavirus. And when I talk to her on the phone compared to how things are going where I live in Arizona, it's just, there's such a difference of like stress and just everything that's going on. And so I saw this, and we grew up watching Ghostbusters, and she lives in New York City and loves New York City. And I was like, I have to stitch this for her, right? So I got this pattern on the spot, and I was actually able to kit it up completely with floss in my stash. And I started in the top left corner, and look, I am stitching it on 28 count over one with 2 strands, doing the 10th stitch to make it go faster. So I only need one more row of windows before I reach the bottom of this page. If that gives you an idea of how far along the first page I am. It's 4 pages total. I am over here. I've got 3 windows outlined, and then there's one more row of windows before the page break. And then I need to work on this house, this building, their headquarters. And I think I'm going to save the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man for last. So that is super fast. Literally, that took me maybe 2.5 days to get through. I don't know how many stitches that is because I don't count my stitches, but this is going to be in plans. I want to work on this. I want to get it done. I want to send it to her because I think she'd get a good laugh out of it. When I purchased this, and I don't know where it is, but nope, I don't know where it is. I got another one too. I can't remember which one I got now. I want to say it was Rivendell. No, but it was a Lord of the Rings one. It was Welcome to Moria. And I don't think it's here right now, so I will show it next week in my haul. It's beautiful. That one would go in my room if I ever stitch it. Okay, so the next start after that, we're on start number 4. This was a haul I showed last week, which was Night Walked Down by the Blue Flower. And I got this from the attic in Mesa, Arizona. And when I first saw it, someone was stitching this, and I saw this last year, and it's kind of been on my mind ever since. And when I was browsing through the attic and I saw it displayed, I had to get it. So I kitted this up with the haul I received last week. And I'm stitching this on 40 count Newcastle in the colorway Truffle by Picture This Plus. Yeah, Truffle, which is like a light blush rosy pink color. It is beautiful. And I started in the middle. Shocking, I know, since I start in the left so often. I started in the middle because I wanted to work on her immediately. And I started with her hair, and then I did her face, and then I started on her dress, the upper body. Then I did the moon, because I had to do the moon, and then I was working on her dress. Now, this one is definitely coming out this week because I would like to finish her. I want to finish her dress, and I want to do the black cat. And if I can get those items done this week, I'll feel good about this project. So, yeah. And what's great is I have this piece of fabric. She's going to fit on this top half of the fabric, and then I'll have the other half of this fabric for something else, which will be nice. So she was a lot of fun to work on. I was working on her mostly on Saturday, and I did not want to put her down. So she's super fun, and she's charted in overdyes, but I don't really have a stash of overdyes. I have mostly just DMC floss because it's cheap and readily available. So when I went to kit her up, due to funds, I was basically picking and choosing. I was looking at the pattern and like picking and choosing colors that I would really like to have with the variegation in it, and her dress was one of them. And her dress is, come on, it was right there and then it decided to slide down, and now things are falling out and it's crinkling everywhere. It's Seaweed by Weeks Dye Works, and it has a subtle variegation to it. I'm using 2 other overdyes. One of the overdyes that I really wanted to get for this was Amethyst by Gentle Arts, but that was out of stock. And when I placed my second and third orders with 1, 2, 3 Stitch, it was still out of stock. So I was like, I'm just going to do the DMC equivalents that they put in here, which is a blend. I hate blends. And I'm stitching this on 40 count with 1 strand, so that'll be interesting. I did learn a trick from AngelaStitches, which is a YouTube channel on here. She's great. You should check her out. But she's stitching, I think it's a Mirabilia on 40 count, and there were some blends, and she was wondering how she was going to figure out how to do blends if she's only supposed to be using one strand. And someone suggested to her to do one leg in one color and the other leg in another color. So I'll probably play around with that and decide what color I want on top, what color I want on bottom, and kind of go from there. Or I could place another order and try and figure out a different overdyed floss that would work instead of amethyst. You never know. But anyway, that's a future problem. Okay, the fifth and final start. This is a chart that I have wanted ever since I've seen it. It's been on my wish list forever, but because it's so huge and costs so much, I've kind of like let it slide, especially since I do a ton of Hades, Heaven and Earth designs. It is Halloween at Hawkrun Hollow, which you have all seen. There are a lot of Flosstubers who've either finished it or are working on it. But I figured in this time of buying all the things and starting all the things that I would just do it. And this is a haul that came this past weekend. So this is part of my haul. But I have always wanted to stitch this, and I figured, you know, why not now? So I started it yesterday, and I started it in the middle panel because I wanted to start in the middle, and then I wanted to be able to do whichever square I wanted once I was done with this. So I started in the very middle, which brought me to the top of this cauldron, and so I've just been working on the cauldron. And it's still in my Q-snap because I was working on this morning before work and on my lunch break, and then I will be working on this tonight to finish off these flames. So all I have left around the cauldron is I'm working on the yellow flames, which I have like 3 more sections to do. And then if I get that done tonight, I'll probably move on to the swirls above the cauldron and work on those and just see where we get tonight. And then tomorrow I'm going to be working on something else. But this, first of all, this cauldron is a lot bigger than I just imagined when I was looking at the picture, and then I was starting to stitch it. It was just taking way longer than I would have thought, but it is so enjoyable to stitch, and I'm really enjoying it on 40 count. I'm stitching it on 40 count Country Mocha by Zweigart, which is like the perfect neutral. I love this fabric so much, and the stitches go through it like butter. So that is what I've been working on. So much fun stuff. I don't think I've ever made 5 starts in a week. I think that's a record. But they're all enjoyable projects, all of them. Yeah, well, in plans, I'm going to be continuing on some of those projects, actually. So let's move on to haul. It's not a lot. You just saw part of it. Halloween at Hawkrun Hollow was haul, and then the Country Mocha fabric was also haul. The rest of my haul, you might laugh at me. It's okay. So I got another Halloween chart, When Witches Go Riding by Prairie Schooler. I do have a special place in my heart for Prairie Schooler. I have a couple other items of theirs on my hot list to purchase and hopefully stitch this year. I feel like this would be a fun stitch with all the complex stitches I like to do. This would be a really nice break from like a Hade or a nice large full coverage piece. But since I just started a Halloween piece with Hawkrun Hollow, with Halloween at Hawkrun Hollow, this was going to be my next start, but I feel like Halloween at Hawkrun Hollow is kind of scratching that itch already. So this might actually not get worked on this week. Yeah. Another piece of haul I got was a smaller piece of Country Mocha in 40 count. This is a 13 by 18, which I originally purchased to go with When Witches Go Riding. However, when all my fabric came in And I was planning my third order. I really wanted to figure out how I could utilize all the fabric I had on hand so that I wouldn't be purchasing more fabric. And I decided that this was going to go for two patterns that I was going to be purchasing for my third order. And I had a piece of the same size linen in 40 count in the colorway Wren by Picture This Plus, which my Wren is, it's like tannish, yellowish. It's got a bit of yellow in it. And since this calls for, I want to say it calls for like lamb's wool or something. It's not going to tell me. Maybe this will tell me. Model was stitched, yep, in 32 count lamb's wool. So it's like a really light color, and I like a bit darker colors. So that's why I was going to use Country Mocha, but Wren will work just fine. So using that for that, and then this gets to be used for something new, so I'm excited. And then I got some size 28 needles. Now, I had never stitched with size 28 needles before. When I first started cross-stitching, I used size 24, and I couldn't go lower. When I tried using size 26s, I was just so hard on them, I would break them. So I figured, nah, size 24 is working, it's fine. But as I started using finer linen, the size 24s were just too bulky, and I had to train myself to just be easier with a size 26. And so now I use size 26 for everything, even larger pieces of larger count, smaller count, Ada, you know what I mean. But a couple of weeks ago, you can slow down, I had purchased my first piece of 46 count linen. Up until that point, I had only used 40 count. And so I was trying to use a size 26 on this 46 count, and it just felt too bulky. I felt like I was making the holes way too big. So I decided that I really wanted to try a size 28, especially since at some point I want to try 56 count fabric. Because when I was at the attic, I was so taken by the tiny stitches of a lot of those models. And I know that the owner loves using 56 count. And when I see those stitches, they are so beautiful. So at some point, I want to try that. So I figure I need to get used to using a smaller needle. So I got these and I started using it immediately on When Night Walked Down is what I was working on at the time. And that's on 40 count. And I love it. I can thread this so easy. One of the things I was worried about is that I wouldn't be able to thread it without using help with a tool. And I don't need to. At least with these peacemakers, they thread really easily. And because I'm a creature of habit, and a lot of times if I'm using two strands, I take one strand and fold it in half for the loop method. And I did that just out of habit with this needle once, and I was able to thread it with both pieces of thread. So these are really easy to thread, and they're really easy to handle, and I'm enjoying them a lot. So totally sold. Okay, now my last two pieces of haul. So I got Halloween at Hawkrun Hollow, right? Well, I was debating which Hawkrun Hollow I wanted. I liked the Halloween one, I liked Autumn at Hawkrun Hollow, and I liked the Shores of Hawkrun Hollow. And I couldn't pick between them. And finally I picked that instead of Autumn at Hawkrun Hollow, I wanted to do Halloween at Hawkrun Hollow. I love Halloween. But for some reason, my desire for summer and vacations really, really made me want to stitch Shores of Hawkrun Hollow, even though these are ginormous pieces, which are not going to get done this year. So instead of making myself pick, I decided to get them both. So we have the Shores of Hawkrun Hollow. And I was planning just to do my marathon starts, and I was going to start this one as well. And I'm planning to start in the middle, just like the other one, and do that middle panel so that I can do any square I feel like after that. But because I'm already starting to desire working on some of my starts more than the time I'm giving them, I'm debating starting this. So I may or may not start this week, but we will talk about that in plans. So I got that pattern, and then I needed to figure out, again, the fabric situation. Because I purchased both of these patterns in the same order, I only purchased one piece of fabric, telling myself, I mean, you're already spending so much money. You're only getting one piece of fabric, and you're going to choose between them at a later date of which one you want to start. And so when I was planning my third order and I was going through all of my fabric to try and figure out how I was going to kit up everything, I went through what I had already, and I decided that I'm going to stitch. Now this calls for a tan fabric. It calls for 40 count. The model was stitched on 40 count vintage autumn gold from Lakeside. Very tan, which is fine. However, I'm going to try stitching it on this 40 count Valor by Picture This Plus. Now this is coming up very gray in the video, which is fine, but it's actually like a sea spray green, and I'm going to see how all the color, and I did a floss toss, and all the colors look like they will stand out on this pretty well. So I'm going to try stitching it on that, which will be a nice change from all of the country mocha I've been using. So that is haul. I've had a lot of fun putting things on my wish list and purchasing things I wouldn't normally purchase. It's definitely been a good ride. It's not something I normally do. And after this third order arrives, and after I get over all of these new starts that I've been doing and I get back into a routine, we will let it go. It'll be fine. So, yeah. So let's talk about plans. So originally, the third order that has 4 patterns in it should be arriving between probably Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. And my goal last week was like every 1 or 2 days I'm going to start something new, and we'll just get through all of the new starts, and then we'll make plans for which ones we want to work on. But at this point, the gears are already turning. Now, I definitely want to work on, I'm going to finish the cauldron. I'm going to finish the cauldron for Halloween at Hawkrun Hollow. I'm going to work on that tonight until that's done. So we're going to continue that middle panel for tonight. And then when that's done, tomorrow we are going to pick up, I'm the one. I'm going to pick up Welcome to New York City, and I'm going to work on this probably all of tomorrow and Wednesday, 2 days, and we'll see. I would really love to get, see, here I go with my goals. If it were a normal time, I would be working on this until I got a page finish, and that would be a decent moment to take a break and work on something else. But it's not a normal time. So I'll probably give this 2 days and get as much done as I can. And since I'm doing the tent stitch, it will go by very fast, especially since, I mean, these are all blocks of color. There is no confetti in here whatsoever. So I look forward to getting a lot done on that in 2 days. So that'll be Tuesday and Wednesday. And then after that, I'm probably going to pick up, where did the pattern go? I'm probably going to pick up Night Walks Down again, and I'm going to finish her dress and finish that cat, which, depending on how much time I have, could just be Thursday or Thursday and part of Friday. And then after that, I'm going to leave it open. I might start something new. There is at least one pattern in the order that's coming this week that I will be starting. I find that if I'm stitching a project as a gift for someone, there is a greater probability of me focusing on it and finishing it so I can give it. So there is a pattern in the order coming this week that I will be starting so that I can work on it as a gift for someone. And I will show you guys that next week. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are up in the air, which is kind of nice. I think on Thursday evening I will just make a choice then of what I feel like doing. So we will see. I have to say that Ex Machina, one of my Heaven and Earth designs that I'm stitching, I showed it to you guys last week. That's been calling my name because I didn't finish the page. Again, I'm used to like I need a solid break between something and I didn't finish the page. So that's calling to me. If I don't get to it within the next short while, I may focus on that for my 24 hours of cross stitch that's coming up in a few weeks. April 24th, right? I think. The 24 hours of cross stitch, if you don't know, is something that's put on by Jen Lee. She is Quirks and Stitches on Instagram, and she's here on YouTube on Flosstube as Jen Lee. She's super cool. You should check her out. So yeah, so those are my plans. All the cross stitching, I have to say, it's just, again, per usual, just a lifesaver for me. I can't stop doing it. Even if there's like something that's more productive that I should be doing right now, I can't help it. I just want to sit and cross stitch. So let's pop over into the chit chat real quick and then I'll let you go. And you know what? Oh, we're already we're over a half an hour. I was going to say this feels like it's going by very fast. So I wanted this to be a half an hour long. So we're doing okay, I guess. Quick chit chat, I guess. So one of the things that I've been watching a lot since I realized that it was on Netflix is Community, which is a TV series that has 6 seasons, finished up in 2015, I think. Started in 2009, it's one of my favorite TV series, and I don't own it or anything, and for a long time it wasn't available streaming anywhere. So it came onto Netflix, I want to say last week, and I've been binge watching it. I'm almost to the end of season 2. So I flip back and forth. Once I watch all of the Flosstube that's in my realm, I switch over to Netflix, and then I watch several episodes of Community, and then I switch back to Flosstube. So I'm enjoying it so much. It is my happy place. The other thing I've been doing is I bought some ice on Friday so that I can make some margaritas, and that is what I'm drinking. I love margaritas. Yeah, so yeah, not a lot else going on. I don't think I mentioned this last video, but I am working from home for the foreseeable future, like a lot of people, due to the coronavirus situation. I typically work at a university, so now I'm working remotely for a university. So I work from home during the week. I have a 14-year-old son, and he is sort of doing online learning. There's no like virtual classes or anything. Like he's not meeting with his teacher virtually via Zoom or WebEx or anything like that. He basically goes into Google Classroom and there's assignments waiting there for him, and then he has throughout the week to do the assignments. And basically for this last portion of the school year, if they complete 75% of their assignments, then they will earn a letter grade better than what they earned in third quarter. So for this for second semester, that's how they're going to calculate their grades. So their grades can only go up this quarter, which I think is nice. I mean, there's a lot of families that don't have easy connectivity to the internet in order to be online. There are some families in my area that don't even have like computers or devices that can connect to the internet. So it's been a challenge for my school district to really figure out what the hell they're doing. So yeah, so he's doing some work, but honestly, it's busy work. His school year goes, we live in Arizona, so our school year is kind of a little different from like East Coast and other places, but his school typically goes through like the day after Memorial Day, and then they're out. So, but they go back to school like end of July. So It's called a year-round structure. So with everything crazy going on, he's sort of doing his schoolwork and then he's playing video games the rest of the time. So better that than me trying to teach him and police him while working full time from home. That would be crazy. So we're dealing. We're dealing along with margaritas. So cool. All right. Well, I think that's it. And we are at 35 minutes, which is less than an hour, which is awesome. So thank you guys so much for sticking with me and going through all my 5 new starts. And you can follow me on Instagram at Veil the Stitcher if you want to see my progress updates throughout the week. I'm always looking for new cross stitchers to follow as well. So anyways, I hope you have a great week and I will see you next Monday night with my progress to date and my last little bit of haul, my last little bit of starts maybe. And then maybe we can talk about some mania plans. Since I'm doing kind of like, I was trying to come up with like a cool thing because like there's March Madness and there's Mania for May, but what happens if you do a new start in November? What happens if you do crazy new starts in April? I was trying to come up with a cool catchphrase for that and I couldn't come up with anything. I thought of like April of Ardor, Ardor. That is a word. It's short for adoration, April of Ardor, but I don't know. Couldn't think of anything. So all my new starts are this month. My mania and craziness and, April of affliction, I don't know if we want to use affliction during this time, are happening now. So my mania is probably going to be a crazy decision wheel that has me working on a different whip each day or something like that. So we'll see. But anyways, I hope you have a good night and a good week and awesome stitchy time at some point, and I'll see you next week. Bye.